Hello everyone, welcome to the secrets of NAISARGIKA DASHA, a dasha that might seem too easy to be true, but actually this is an important tool. If you do not use this dasha, only use Vimsotri or any other dasha, you're missing out on one of the best prediction tools you can ever have in the Vedic system. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. The video is good, give it a thumbs up, let's go. NAISARGIKA Dasha could be called the natural dasha of life. It follows almost exactly the developmental stages of human existence, in fact mirroring amazingly the current psychological knowledge about these stages. So here we have a table of the 7 NAISARGIKA Dasha periods from the moon right through to Saturn. You can see right away, everyone, which Maha Dasha you are currently running in this scheme by simply seeing age on this side. So let's say you're 28 years of age right now, then clearly you're in Venus Maha Dasha, going to continue for you up until you're 32. The condition of Venus in your chart, D1, D9, will give us so much information. Sign, house, aspects, beneficence, maleficence of the Venus will show you your destiny during these years of your life. I am never short of amazed actually at the predictive power of this Maha Dasha. Don't think because it's generic order that everybody has this order of this NAISARGIKA Dasha, it's going to lack predictive power. It's going to be too vague. There is nothing vague about NAISARGIKA Dasha. You definitely need to be up to date with this predictive tool. It's the first Dasha mentioned by Sage Parashara. We should understand this gives it enormous importance. By the way, don't confuse this NAISARGIKA scheme in this order with the NAISARGIKA maturity of the planets, such as Mercury matures 32, Saturn 36, etc. That's a completely different factor. This is a natural dasha scheme ruling complete periods of your life. Now, of course, these long periods of NAISARGIKA Dasha, like Venus Dasha, Jupiter Dasha, etc., can be broken up into sub-periods, are broken up. All of the Maha Dashas are. But to get those worked out, you're going to need software. It isn't easy to manually calculate them like you can actually do Vimsotri. I'm sure that Jagannath Hora has this NAISARGIKA scheme there for free, and certainly Devaguru does, link bottom of my description box, but you have to sub there. But even if you don't know these Bhukti sub periods, so much predictive power is there simply by understanding, with some depth of understanding that is, what these Maha Dasha periods are all about. Let's explore. The moon Maha Dasha from birth until 1 year of age. My goodness, I've definitely chosen a cutie, haven't I? Huggable baby. But here's the thing. Were you hugged? Were you loved? Did you feel good at 0 to 1? You will not have memories of this time. But your birth chart and your D9, don't neglect it, tells you so much about your experience at 0 to 1 year of age. By the way, D9 chart does start from the moment you drew breath, from the moment of your birth. Do not be misled thinking it only starts when you marry. So D1, D9, integrate them in all of your predictions, I would advise, using this NAISARGIKA scheme. Astrologically, we all know moon is biological mother. Moon is our feeling of safety, security, emotional self-expression, and our integration to society later on in life. Now, modern day psychology has made a big thing, rightly so, about this early bonding experience. Now, this was my job, by the way, psychology teacher. I know all of these theories and I really don't want to overwhelm you with them. Now, it's not relevant. Let's stick to the astrology, definitely. But it is important that we just recognize how long-term consequences happen. John Bowlby, the great developmental psychologist, researched this extensively. John Bowlby spoke about how the young baby develops sense of trust, sense of belonging, sense of integration psychologically at a very deep and even psychic level, which will, as many other psychologists later researched, have a profound effect on our adult relationships themselves. So what we're seeing when we look at the moon in our chart, everybody, D1, D9, especially condition of the moon aspects, as I say, everything, we are seeing how we internalized this feeling of safety, security. It's a very special factor. Now, if you have moon afflictions, many people will, D1, D9, you should strengthen the moon. Do not fear. This will help enormously. Check the video on my channel, Moon Maha Dasha, because that will give you practical remedies to immediately put into play. As long as you can do these remedies, they will always help. Now let's illustrate how to judge Moon Dasha and every single Dasha with a chart. We're going to use King Charles right the way through because he's been through every single NAISARGIKA Dasha and he's an excellent example. Another reason, everyone, though, to use King Charles here is that he's currently going through some very difficult health issues. And on my channel already, you may have seen it, some of you, I've got a biography. No, not a biography. I've got a chart analysis of King Charles, all of his horoscopes there. And at that time when I made the video, just prior to the coronation, I was very concerned about his health, and I mentioned it quite a bit in that video. So we can look at it again using NAISARGIKA's scheme. So the Moon Dasha, 0 to 1, let's look at the moon. Aries, 10th house, Gemini in the 9th house, D9. Now this D1 moon is terribly afflicted. First of all, 10th house is not a good placement for anyone's moon. Why is that? Because 10th is the furthest away from the 4th house, natural house of the moon. People who have 10th house moon typically have some emotional issues with the mother. I've seen this many times. But the moon is in Aries, moon in Mars sign, both Aries and Scorpio, is not an easy placement. So not a good start, everyone, but it gets worse because every malefic is afflicting this moon. Rahu conjunct the moon. That's very afflicting. Born on eclipse. Sun, of course, opposite. Another malefic afflicting. Shani and Mars. The others afflict by their Rasi sign aspect onto this moon throughout life. Is there anyone helping Charles's serially afflicted moon? Mercury, Buddha aspects, but Mercury is in a Maranakadakastana position. That's not going to help. There is, however, help. Jupiter in the 6th house in own sign has a 5th aspect onto the moon. And when we look at D9, as I will in a minute, Jupiter is also with the moon. So who is this Jupiter? Who is this guru? Jupiter is in the 6th house and he is Lord of the 6th as well. The 6th house represents servants. It was his nanny who was the closest emotional bond to him. In fact, his first spoken words were recorded to be not mummy daddy, but nana. And by the way, the 6th house also represents mother substitutes, such as adoptive mother, foster mother, etc. So if you have that situation, check the 6th house in your chart and 6th lord, everyone. So it's definitely indicating his nanny by this aspect. Next, as I say, we should confirm with the D9 Navamsa chart. Sun and the moon are together in the 9th house with Guru. Now, sun and the moon together is like an Amavasya effect. It's not a favorable conjunction. In the Varga charts particularly, it is disturbing factor, darkening of this moon, darkening of the emotional bond with mother. But once again, Jupiter rescues. Who is Jupiter? It is not mother. It's again 6th house lord, Pisces, Jupiter coming to the rescue. 6th house lord D1, 6th house lord D9 with the moon. The nanny relationship strongly supporting Charles emotionally. But nonetheless, this dark moon D9, this serially afflicted by malefics all over the place moon in the D1, his relationship with his biological mother was very, very distant. She was not maternal. Elizabeth II did not bond with her first child, or even daughter actually. She was a bit more bonded with her later kids. This is well documented. So she was cold, she was not maternal, not at all responsive to him. In fact, she hardly ever saw him. When she saw him and she hadn't seen him for some time, she would shake his hand. That was a sort of relationship. So check the video on my channel, Charles's Horoscope, to learn more about that. The next NAISARGIKA Dasha for everyone is Mars. Mangala Dasha goes between 1 and 3 years of age in your life. Check condition of Mars for what you would experience during this period. Now, psychologically, this is when young children develop sense of self, sense of ego, terrible twos, crashing everywhere, breaking things and all that. But Mars is about aggression, about self-assertion. In fact, if you really want to see aggression happening in the world on a daily basis, go to a nursery. There is nowhere where there is just complete aggression being expressed perfectly, naturally, because that's what Mars Dasha is about. In psychology, psychologists have spoken about obsessive compulsions developing from this time. This is the potty training time. Sigmund Freud talked about anal retention, anal expulsion. We don't want to go there. We just want to say that this is about expressing self's needs. So did you have a successful Mars Dasha psychologically, physically, emotionally? You have a strong sense of self. Final point, Mangala represents the blood, represents immune function. Stronger Mars is in the charts, stronger will Mars be to protect you from infection during this age. So for Prince Charles, how's it going? Mars Dasha 1 to 3. Well, look at this Mangala. Mangala's in Scorpio, very, very strong. He will develop sense of ego quite well here. But in the D9, Mangala's weaker by sign Pisces, showing sensitivity. He was a very sensitive, even shy child. But look, dispositor is Guru, of course, from this house of servant, and Jupiter is with the moon. He is still having the maternal affection support coming from this nanny, the servant in his life, supporting him emotionally. I'm not sure whether Prince Charles had any infectious diseases during these years, but with Mangala in Scorpio and 6th house Mangala especially, very good position, he would certainly throw off these infections easily. Next comes a Mercury Dasha from 4 to 11, self-explanatory. You go to school, you learn, hopefully, language skills, communication skills develop for you. How did that go? Reading, writing, arithmetic, learning, logical skills all develop here. And how did you integrate with your peers? These are the friendship formation years. Mercury is about friends. So what was your Mercury Dasha like? Check Mercury's condition D1, D9 minimum to see about this. For King Charles, it's back to the difficult times. Look at this Mercury. It's in a modern Akadakastana. Mercury in the 4th house is in a death-like situation. Basically, his educational years, particularly 8, he went to boarding school, were a trauma to him. He was bullied at school. He was a bit plump. He had sticky out ears. He was called fatty. He was bullied. And this is just prep school. It got worse when he got older. In addition, can you see Mercury is in a combustion with 2 malefics, Sun and K2, eclipse time, but K2 is the 9th house lord, biological father, everyone, and co-lord here, you see, and Sun is father. He had an extremely difficult relationship with Prince Philip, and this is well documented during his childhood years. Prince Philip thought that his son Charles was weak. He wanted to man him up. He virtually bullied him, put so much stress on his son, and this is clearly shown here. Furthermore, when he was 8, right in the middle of this Dasha, the nanny that he'd become extremely close to, sort of like a substitute mother was taken away from him. She was dismissed because the Queen and Philip thought she had become too close to him, showing him preferential treatment over his sister. Whatever, for him it was traumatic, death-like. So basically this is not a good dasha from the D1, traumatic actually, but look at the D9. Is it going to help? In the D9, we see Mercury in Aquarius, Saturn sign, not good, but worse than that, in a Papakatari yoga. Papakatari means two malefics are encircling. Ketu behind, Mars in front, this Mercury is trashed. This is such a difficult time for Prince Charles as he was at that time. Next, we have Venus Maha Dasha from 13 to 32. All of our teenage years, 20s, come under this Venus Maha Dasha. From 13, we have sexual maturity, hormonal changes taking place, male, female, sexual attraction begins. Venus Sukra's main purpose is actually reproduction, mating. So this is the whole push of this Maha Dasha. Romance, love, social life, integration of our sexual preferences, and definitely having babies is very favorable during this time. Of course, science itself supports that we are most ready to have babies during this time, particularly 20s. We are most fertile. We give birth easily. We are able to take care of the child physically, mentally, much more energy. So it is favorable actually having children, if you should, during this Venus Dasha especially. But when Venus is afflicted in your chart, D1 and D9, especially Dustana 6, 8, 12 Venus, I've seen many conflicts during this time. Relationship difficulty, bonding difficulty, parenting difficulty even. Definitely problems with appearance, accepting of the self, definitely sexual conflict, sexuality developing, causing conflict as well. So these can be challenging years when we have Venus in any way afflicted in our charts. How will it be for King Charles? Well, these were very sexual years for him, many love affairs. Let's have a look at Venus. Venus is in a debilitated state in the critical sign of Virgo in the third house. Third house Venus is intensely sexual. He had many love affairs, many public relationship connections, but none of them fruitified into long-term marriage situation. Venus in Virgo is intensely dissatisfied, intensely critical. Now let's see D9, really important relationship chart. Don't forget, Venus is the Lord here representing him. He's feeling pressure in this Venus Dasha. What for? 10th house. Publicly, people are expecting him to marry. He's the heir to the throne. He has to marry and produce children. But it's like he can't do it. He can't find anyone. He feels contained. Why? This Venus is afflicted by the two malefics, Saturn, Rahu. What an affliction. He's being tied actually by past life karma coming back. He's being pushed to meet the destined person he has to marry, who is going to be Diana, but he doesn't meet her until the very last year of this Venus NAISARGIKA DASHA. But the relationship and marriage between them, children, everything didn't happen until Jupiter came, until the Jupiter NAISARGIKA period. This Venus is far too afflicted for anything to develop like that. Jupiter NAISARGIKA Dasha from approximately 32 until 49, we grow in status. We can grow in wealth, prosperity, lots of things. This is the prime of our life. We go up ladder to success. Many people, we become experts in our field. We teach others. We gain wisdom and we give out wisdom is a very important factor to achieve in this Jupiter Dasha period. We may travel a lot. We may study philosophy, religious system. Gaining a deep inner knowing is an integral part, actually, of this Jupiter period. So check Jupiter in your chart, status of Jupiter house, placement aspects as I've just shown you, and especially D1, D9, very important to integrate them, because are you going to prosper, grow, feel satisfaction in your life or dissatisfaction? If Jupiter is ill-placed, afflicted, there can be midlife crisis, taking you into a very difficult place, some people, or you just have to leave something behind. Jupiter expands you into a whole different experience. And of course, Jupiter is very akin to education of children. It's about children's education. Venus is about having children. Jupiter is about educating them. So connecting to young people, supporting them, educating own children becomes another of the very important factors of this Jupiter period in our lives. Prince Charles charts them. This is very, very interesting because Jupiter Dasha, he goes into a very strongly placed planet's Dasha. Jupiter is in own sign Sagittarius. So many life-changing events happen to Charles during this time. We're going to also use the sub-periods, Bhukti periods, to see how amazingly predictive is this NAISARGIKA Dasha. Now, we've just seen how Charles met Diana Spencer, due to become Princess Diana at the very end of his Venus NAISARGIKA Maha Dasha. But they didn't marry until he entered Jupiter Dasha. Jupiter Venus, in fact, was when he married Princess Diana and had his first child with her, Prince William. So big life change is happening because Guru to Venus is 10 houses away. Some big public relationship factor happening. Marriage was huge for him because he was Prince of Wales. It's almost as though he was being bound into this. Saturn Rahu, is like a rope binding. So he's being bound into this commitment. Nobody's forcing him to walk down the aisle, marry Diana, but circumstances are pushing him into this. It is more than well documented. He was not in love with Diana, but he just felt committed by his status duty that he had to get married, had to produce children. See, in the relationship area, D9 has to be studied carefully. Guru here, Guru Jupiter Maha Dasha, has gone into a weak placement. It's in Gemini, not strong like D1. So his health could be good, his health could be fine. Jupiter's strong here, but Jupiter D9 relationship is not so fine because Gemini is a weak placement and Guru is with the sun and the moon, that Amavasya darkening effect. So his emotions are not steady, his emotions are clouded. There is a big struggle emotionally going on during this Guru Maha Dasha. And the condition of Venus is so important because he's in Jupiter-Venus period. The Bhukti Lord says everything. And in addition, Venus is Lord of the D9 chart, represents him and his destiny, him and his marriage. But he's going to have kids because Jupiter 9 away is to the house of children here. So he's going to have children. That is more than obvious. And actually, 9th house D9 itself relates in some way to offspring. Check the video on my channel, D9 chart, to learn more about these D9 houses. But the biggest affliction to this Guru, 9th house Guru during this Jupiter Dasha, is from Mangala. And Mangala is the Lord of relationships. Can you see it's really dramatic, everyone? Mars rules the 7th house in the D9. 7th house is the first wife. Mars represents Diana. And this Mangala has gone 12 to the house of marriage into Pisces here. So there is some loss. There is some health issue for the wife or some sort of accident. 6th house represents accident, or there is definitely divorce happening. Some separation, minimum terrible tension. And of course, Mangala has his 4th aspect directly to this Jupiter Dasha. So we would expect and predict that during Jupiter Mars period, we are definitely going to have some critical relationship development. Which of course is exactly what happened. Jupiter Mars period between 1994 to 1997, Princess Diana died in the car accident in Paris. But they were actually separated then. They were not married at that time. So tension between them had been going for a long time, as we can see by the other factors I've just pointed out now. When did they separate? They separated in Guru Sun period. Jupiter Sun, 1992 was actually when they separated. So this was actually a good thing for Charles, freeing him up from so much tension. Jupiter Sun together in the 9th house of this D9 chart. But you see, prior to this, Charles had been connecting again to Camilla Parker Bowles, and Diana herself had been engaging in extramarital affairs. It was a very unhappy marriage by 1992 for certain. Check the dispositor of Guru. When we see any NAISARGIKA or any Dasha, Maha Dasha Lord, everyone, we must look at the dispositor. Jupiter is in Gemini D9. Dispositor is Mercury. Mercury is in Saturn's sign in the 5th house of love affairs. So love affairs, complications going on, but they're not easy to resolve because Mercury is in a Papakatari. We've spoken about it before. Mercury Buddha is a weak planet for Charles. It is captured between Mangala and Ketu. So love affairs going on, complications going on. It's a net of romance and difficulty. This is no easy Mahadasha for him, but definitely completely life-changing. One favorable factor, again, during the Jupiter Sun period here, Jupiter is 11 to the Sun. He had business success. This was when he set up his organic farming business, Duchy Originals, which was hugely, momentously successful. The Sun Mahadasha in our life between 50 years of age and 69, a very important period because the Sun is about wealth resources. Some people increase wealth in their life, but the main aim of this Dasha is to spread wealth, is to sustain your next generation. Many people write last will testament. Sun is about shedding warmth and happiness. Many people become grandparents now. Lovely time when you can happily nurture the next generation. In addition, Sun is about power, authority. Many people get very powerful positions, job-wise, business-wise, especially government jobs. Many politicians get their most absolute power during this Sun Dasha. But the Sun is rising and setting, so are you going to get absolute power or do you fall from power, one or the other? Check the Sun in your D1, D9 to see how this NAISARGIKA Dasha will be for you. Now in King Charles's chart, when he was in Sun Dasha between 50 and 69, Sun is not in a very strong place at all. He's in a debilitated state, Libra, and in the 4th house, both extremely weak positions. And the Sun is in 9th house though, D9, but in this Amavasya situation. Still with Guru, Jupiter does support some expansion, but he'll be doing it in a very contained way because Sun lacks strength. Of course, during this period, he married again, and he married Camilla in 2005, which is here in the Sun-Mars period. Very interesting to see this again. Very predictive in this NAISARGIKA scheme. Let's take D9 first of all, marriage, because Sun is in the 9th house and 10 away is Mars. That's a very good Bhukti period. 10 away from the Mahadasha Lord. But more than that, Mars is the Lord of the 2nd house in the D9, Scorpio. 2nd house D9 is the second marriage. So his second wife, second marriage occurred in the Sun-Mars period. Perfect timing. Saturn Dasha takes over when we get to 70, right until we die, right until the most of 120 years. Kali Yuga, this is the utmost. Now, actually, some people divide the final decades of the Shani NAISARGIKA period into Lagna Dasha. I'm not going to bother too much with that. We just need to know Saturn is old age. Longevity, how long we live, depends how strong Saturn is in our chart. You see, everyone, people are afraid of Saturn, Shani, because of all the difficulties, sorrow and tribulations he can bring according to our karmas. But the blessing he brings is shown in this last NAISARGIKA period. He is the only graha who can give us the blessing, and it is a blessing of long life. See, Saturn turns us away from the material gain, from the selfishness, from the desire for material factors. We see that it was all dust and ashes anyway. This is maturity. This is real understanding. Of course, Saturn represents limitation, slowing down. Old age is all about this, disability, illness, etc. But once again, stronger Saturn is, D1, D9, less difficulty will be there. Now, King Charles is currently running Saturn NAISARGIKA Dasha, and this is very interesting because Saturn is not at all well placed and has quite a lot of affliction. Simply by sign placement, Shani is weak. Shani is in Leo. That's a weak placement. Why? Because Saturn is furthest away from his own home sign of Aquarius, 7th away, weakened position. Similarly, D9 chart, Saturn in Cancer, 7 away from his own sign Capricorn, a weakened position. Thing to note is that Saturn is with Venus, Lord of his destiny, D9, in the 10th house of status attainment. He became king in this Saturn NAISARGIKA period. In fact, he became king in the Saturn Dasha, Saturn Maha Dasha Bhukti of Saturn as well, which was going from 2021 and continues on until 2033. You see, under this double Saturn influence, Shani Dasha now, it's in the 2nd house, house of family heritage. And 3rd aspect is destroying 4th house. 4th house is family home and mother. So mother dies and he becomes king. But Saturn is afflicting, in a way, 4th house D1 and definitely 4th house D9. This affects his health to an enormous extent. First of all, Saturn aspecting 4th house D1. Mentally, he is enormously stressed during this Shani period. Since 2021, actually, he's feeling mental stress, mental pressure. And there's another factor increasing Charles's stress we can predict by this Shani Dasha, everyone. That is that Saturn represents 7th house in the D1 chart. Now, this is not about Camilla, no. We can see her from Mars here. I've just spoken about that. Check the Jupiter Dasha period. No, this is his 2nd son. You see, 3rd away from the 5th house is the 2nd child. So what we're seeing is that this Saturn, which represents Prince Harry, 2nd son, is 8 away from its natural place, causing stress anyway, destined stress going to come from this sun, but it comes into play in the Saturn Dasha period, most definitely. From 2018, we can predict Charles is feeling stress and difficulty from the disconnect, actually, to his 2nd son, Prince Harry. In addition, everyone, you see Saturn's 2nd house gives financial stress. Now, he's the king. He's not in financial need, but he is acutely aware of the need to cut back financially on his estate. Saturn aspects 4th house. He's trying to make savings, cutbacks, and one of the things he has done, Saturn aspecting 4th house family, he's been highly criticized for. He has attempted to cut back the working royal family to the bare bones. But Saturn's aspect shows that the actual continuity of the monarchy itself is under direct threat, and I would imagine he feels this acutely. In the D9, though, it's threatening his health directly. Saturn is with Venus, Lord of his destiny, aspecting 4th house, and this is the most important thing, everyone, Shani is 4th Lord in the D9 chart. Fourth lord, D9, is a Kadesha. What is Kadesha? Kadesha is a very dangerous planet. Threatens health, threatens happiness, threatens many things when he is afflicted. And malefics in the fourth house, D9, can be health crisis as well. So, yes, Venus aspects, that's a good thing, definitely helpful, but still, Saturn, Ketu, Rahu here happening during this double Saturn period, health is at a very critical stage. Another subtle but difficult prediction here is that Charles is going to have stress over somebody in particular. Saturn aspects by the 10th aspect, the 11th house of his chart. Now, he doesn't have older sibling, but this 11th house also represents his daughter-in-law. It represents Princess Kate. Why? Because it is 7th away from the 5th house. 5th house, where we have Scorpio, Mars, strong placement, is William, his first son. And the opposite house, 7 away, can you see, is William's wife, Princess Kate. The lords, therefore, of the 11th house, Venus primarily, but also the moon, will represent Kate in Charles's chart. So for certain, when he's in this double Saturn period, there's going to be stress and concern happening about Princess Kate. And it's also shown in the D9 because Venus goes over here representing same individual. Venus afflicted by this Saturn Rahu. This is stressful and very concerning for him and generally, I think, of concern. Finally, everyone, let's consider NAISARGIKA integration and the blessings of this dasha. This is the natural dasha of life, and it brings us many blessings. It's important to understand this. What I've seen is that many times when our other dasha, let's say Vimsotri system, mostly used of course, is giving us difficult karmas, many challenges, even sati going on, all sorts of difficult transits, dasha factors happening. NAISARGIKA dasha, if it is favourable, will definitely save the day. An even deeper level, everybody, we get blessings actually by just attempting to accomplish the natural tasks given to us by every NAISARGIKA graha during their dasha. I've spoken about what they are on the video. So, for example, when we have kids in the Venus period, we get blessings no matter how much difficulty. When we teach others, promote others, mentor other people, Jupiter dasha, blessings are there. Giving out wealth, Sun dasha, blessings are there. So on, as I've explained on the video. But it's not set in stone like clockwork. For example, King Charles' chart, he did not have kids in his Venus NAISARGIKA period, but he did in the Jupiter period. But the reason that happened, check his chart again, is because he has Venus and Jupiter mutually aspecting, Rasi aspect to each other. Certainly check for this integration. For example, if you have Saturn with Venus in your chart and you are male, you could have children coming into your life very, very late in life. Or if you are female as well, male and female, you could marry later in life. So there is always integration, but keep in tune with these NAISARGIKA periods, everybody. So many blessings are there. Finally, importantly, if any one of these NAISARGIKA grahas should be badly afflicted in your charts, particularly D1, D9, check the videos on my channel. There's a whole playlist, Maha Dashas. So if you check the relevant Dasha video, there will be very good remedies suggested there. Apply them, you will definitely get benefit. Hope the video was helpful for you, everybody. Don't forget to comment below. If you're new to my channel, of course, sub as well. Be great to have you on board. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.